Action for Development, ACFOD, is a national women's rights organization founded on November 19, 1985. ACFOD is participating in a campaign titled 20 Reasons Why, 20 Voices in commemoration of 20 years of the Maputo Protocol. The campaign involves capturing the voices and opinion of academicians, the private sector, and civil society actors on the different articles of the protocol. Hopefully, this will trigger meaningful discussions on the protocol and its domestication as the conversations focus on raising wider awareness, continental media campaigns about the Maputo Protocol, and the status of its implementation in the country. What examples of harmful practices have affected women's rights? And why is it crucial to eliminate such harmful practices in Uganda?
There are quite a number of what you would classify as harmful cultural practices. Some of them are very obvious, the ones that cause physical harm to the person, like female genital mutilation. But there are some that cause more like psychological harm, or they limit the potential of girls to realize their full potentials in life, and things like if you have the preference of girls over boys, for instance, in access to education, in access to productive resources, girls do not inherit land from their parents. So you find that some of those practices are what limits women from realizing their full potential. That people over time develop certain practices that have nothing to do with the culture. And here, let me say, for instance, gender-based violence. For instance, the beating of wives is not permitted in culture. And but people cite it as one of the harmful cultural practices. But I would like to say that wife beating is not permitted, at least in my culture. It's not permitted, because in my culture has pillars on which the culture is based, on which most cultural beliefs are based. And for me, what I think is culture, when we are looking at culture, we have to look at how is it propagated and how is it sustained, because it goes through a process of socialization. We all know that. So we have to know that if we expect the socialization process to be different, it means we must inform the agents of socialization. We must give them the right information so that the cultural practice changes. And the culture, even any culture, has the people who can ably change it. The harmful practices must be eliminated. That one, I think the Maputo Protocol is very clear, and I think it is something that people agree on. The issue is, do we agree on what those harmful practices are? And every society must have a culture. And as long as every society must have a culture, we must make sure that the culture is positive, that it does not promote discrimination, that it does not sit on the potential of any of its members. It enables the members to really reach their full potential as human beings, that it does not cause them any harm, physical, psychological, economic, or otherwise.
One may ask, what should be done to popularize the Maputo Protocol? And are the international agreements like the Maputo Protocol significant?
Of course, you're aware that Uganda has over 40 tribes. So, and that means different cultures, different cultural practices. But I think once we engage, you have to engage the cultural leaders. And the engagement of the cultural leaders is to engage them in a way that you seek to understand Because sometimes we advocate for elimination of things we don't quite understand. There are certain practices that we are meant. So if you understand why a particular culture, a cultural practice exists, then you're able to address it. We do have to try and find a balance now, because if we, on the one hand, we say people are free to practice their cultural and religious practices, but on the other hand, we need to balance and also understand that there are certain practices that do violate the rights of women, undermine the enjoyment of their rights. We must find a way that we balance these things and find a way to promote what is positive in the cultures, and find a way to, as I said, to domesticate the Maputo Protocol, properly domesticate, not simply putting it into our laws, to do our sensitization in a way that people can appreciate it.
The Maputo Protocol is the most comprehensive treaty on the rights of women and girls in Africa, with 14 articles that identify with the promotion of women's and girls' rights. For over 2 decades now, the Solidarity for African Women's Rights, SOA, a coalition of over 80 civil society organizations working across 33 countries, has ensured that the rights of women in Africa are upheld as articulated by the protocol to the African Charter called the Maputo Protocol.